Alright, so in this video we're taking a look at the new Matek ELRS receivers, as well as this crossfire to PWM converter. It's a 6-channel converter. I did not get the 10-channel converter. There's another one board very similar to this one, just 10 channels instead of 6. So obviously the ELRS receivers uses the crossfire protocol, so this will convert the crossfire signal into a 6-channel PWM signal, and this is going to be useful for those guys that want to use ELRS or crossfire on, like, say, an RC car, RC boat, RC airplane without using a flight controller. And so we have things like servos and that kind of thing. This is going to be pretty useful for that. It's pretty small and light. I'll give you the weight here in a second. It does come with the set of pins here. I'll show you that here as well. We'll talk about this more in a moment. Now the receivers, so they have the one with the SMD antenna, there's a little tiny antenna here, and then they have another receiver with dual whip antennas, or just, I guess, a diversity antenna setups. This is the first one I've seen that has the antennas like this. Obviously on micro FL connectors, you can take them off. Now there's actually another one that most people don't know about. It's this receiver here. It's this is from SII or CE, SIYI. Does also come with diversity antennas. You have to flash this to ELRS, and I'm actually going to use this with the crossfire to PWM converter in an airplane a little bit later. But yeah, you can see here the boards are fairly large. Let's just say here, for size comparison, here's a Happy Model EP2 with the SMD antenna. Compared to the Matek, it's significantly larger. Obviously, you have your 4 crossfire outputs there, and that is also the same, and also the chips are the same, the Semtech 1280. And the firmware is going to come out of the latest version of the ELRS configurator. I used version 1.1. I think that'll show up in there. I think they only have 2.4 gigahertz at the moment. I don't know if they have any plans for 900 megahertz. You'll have to ask them. I bought these off of Banggood. I think they're also available on Pyrojone and Race Day Quads, if you're wondering. But let me just show you how much this stuff weighs real quick. So the receiver with the SMD antenna is about 1.17 grams. And the Happy Model is 0.48 grams, so it's about half the size and weight. And then the ones obviously with the whip antennas, or the full-size antennas, are going to be way heavier, so almost 3 grams for this one. But see, you can also replace these antennas with other ones with micro FL connectors. If you want to use this in something where you need the antennas to be further apart, you can do that, but these are the antennas it comes with. And then the little crossfire to PWM converter board is weigh that much. It's 1.24 grams. So usually the way you're supposed to use these is with these pins that are included, and they just slide into these holes here. So you can see you got some extra pins here. It looks like 4, so you can use 4 of those on those pins over here. But I'm actually not going to use pins for that, because I want to be able to solder the receiver on and off. You do have a set of pins here on the top for the second set of UARTs that I'll talk about here in just a moment. But you can see here the pins are vertical, which I'm not particularly fond of. So if you remember from the old school days, we used to get these pins with flight controllers. Not anymore. I think if you've been around long enough to know about these, let me know in the comments. But I'm going to use these that are sideways, so they mount like this. Gives you a nice low profile, and then you can plug in your servo plugs sideways here. That's what I'm going to eventually do. But you can see here, if you use the pins, you can line up the holes on the receiver and on the converter board, and they'll go like this. So it'll be offset like about that much. But then it's kind of a permanent installation. You can update the firmware via Wi-Fi. This does have the Wi-Fi chip on there. But actually, like I said, I'm going to just use some wires and solder up that other receiver. But if you can see here that this is the 1 UART, this is TX1, RX1, 5 volts and ground on these pins here. But then you have another TX2 and an RX2 over here, 5 volts and ground on this side, current sensor, and a VBAT connection. And this is if you want to use this with a GPS on the other UART. Now, I'm not really sure how that works in terms of I know that it can send that GPS telemetry back to your radio. I think it sends back like latitude, longitude, direction, etc. There's like a few GPS related telemetry elements that are sent back to your radio via here, but you can't do things like GPS rescue, of course, no flight controller. So if you just happen to want to have that information sent back to your radio via telemetry, you can wire up a GPS here. I think it has to be an NMEA protocol. Go to the product page, it explains it all. It's a little bit sort of outside of my realm of expertise, but if you wanted to do that, you get the GPS telemetry that way. Now regarding failsafe, what happens is when your receiver is turned on, and then once it receives a connection from the transmitter, once the receiver and the transmitter connect, then the failsafe is set, and basically it'll be whatever the positions your sticks are in, except for the throttle. The throttle will always default to the low position. In this case, it's a PWM value of 988. But if you wanted to happen to set one of the other sticks to something other than being centered, you can do that when you turn on the radio and it makes the connection. But for most cases, you just want it to the throttle go down to 0 and then the stick's the center so that it'll just neutralize. And that's how failsafe is set on this particular setup for the Express ELRS receiver. Alright, so I got it connected up to my Zod Drift airplane, and actually have the servo connectors already wired up for the ESC and the servos. And there's a close look at what it looks like with the servo pins. Pretty standard stuff there. And then I see the 4 wires for the receiver, and I have this receiver wired up. I'm just gonna probably zip tie these together and stick them inside. I'm using this one because it's got these super long antennas which I can tape to the underside of the wing. Should give me the maximum amount of range. And this setup here is replacing this FreeSky D4R2 receiver that I was using on this previously with these servo connectors. Obviously I don't need a lot of channels, I just need 3 because this one's only a 3-channel airplane, throttle, elevator, aileron, and that's it. So let's go ahead, I'll turn on my radio. I'm actually using a Light Radio 2 SE. This is the one, the Express ELRS edition, and I've already flashed the receiver and the radio with the bind phrase that I use, so I don't have to do any binding. Otherwise, regular Express ELRS binding applies. Go ahead and plug this in. And we got some lights here. There we go. So we have it's bound now. That's how the failsafe set. The ESC should be working. And elevator. Yeah, so that's pretty much it. If you want to, use Express ELRS on an airplane or car or boat, something uses servos, this is how you do it, and it seems like it's working. So if you guys have any questions, let me know. I'll talk to you guys in the next video.